There's a warrant out for his arrest for sexual assault. So when they get there, he is placing the kids in the back seat of her car.
Correct.
So obviously they have to try to arrest him immediately because there's a warrant out for his arrest.
Right.
So I'm good with that part of it. So then he did resist. And according to another investigation done by a man named Noble Ray, who's a former police chief and a use of force expert who is a black man, and he carefully reviewed the investigation. He said that Blake did have this knife. It was a razor-like knife. It was a box cutter. I don't know what it was, something like that, like a razor blade type knife that he had in his hand during the struggle. And they used the stun gun on him 3 times, according to what they said yesterday, to no effect.
Right.
Who knows? I don't know what was happening. And he had the knife. He dropped the knife during the struggle, and then he picked the knife back up. But then he's starting to go into the driver's side
of the car. Right.
And for reasons that escape me, the one officer in most question here grabbed the back of his shirt and pulled him back from the car and didn't just shoot him 1 time, shot him 7 times.
Correct.
7 times.
Right.
4 times in the back, 3 times in the side. He remains paralyzed. Okay. Is that in bounds? Not to me, but again, I don't know the exact letter of the law, but again, the DA yesterday, district attorney, is trying to tell the media they did fear for their lives at that point. Okay, I don't know. Again, I don't want to retry it, but I want everybody to remember now that's the circumstance. 7 times shots fired by 1 officer. Okay, so
the officers told investigators he used deadly force because he was afraid of Blake. The court system have said, be the threat real or imagined.
Right.
You have the right to use deadly force, Skip. It says because you have to think of the officer in that situation at that very moment. Not right now, you and I having a conversation. Not 20 minutes later. You got to think about him in that very situation. But the court says something very big we need to understand.
All right.
A threat real or imagined.
Or imagined.
Skip, I'm walking down the street, man. He looked at me. He might want to do something to me. Let me go get him.
Well, if you have a badge, you can.
Thank you. Okay. And that's what it is. A badge is a license to be a gangster.
It's a license. I don't know the mentality of this officer in question, Rustin Shesky. I have no idea. Does he have racist thinking in the back of his brain? Maybe. I have no idea. Can we weed out the racist cops slowly but surely? If there's a system in place for it, yes, we can. Right. There was a bill out here in California that was up during the bubble.
And at the height. Skip, this was at the height of what was going on. And look at
it would have held policemen more accountable for their actions.
Yes.
And it came and it went. Okay, so again, we have a new president, maybe a new frontier. I don't know, but again, I think we all know where this headed.
Right.
And yet, in the end, the only good news I had off this part of the equation was that there's a federal civil rights investigation into the Blake shooting that is still underway. Will anything come of it? Maybe. Maybe in this administration.
Maybe. Because I think they're gonna have to hold people more accountable because they ran on that of saying they're willing to hold police officers accountable.
Right.
They're willing to pass legislation that will hold police departments accountable for their actions. So now, Skip, everybody, politician in and of itself is a lie.
Yep.
But you made assertions, and the black people, President-elect Biden, let's be 1,000. That's what got you there. You was treading water until James Clyburn of South Carolina, he backed you, you whitewashed through the primaries.
Yep.
And then some other prominent African Americans got behind you. And Stacey Abrams, Skip, I know you probably don't know who she is, but she ran for governor.
I mean, I've read a lot about her. Yep.
And she ended up losing to Brian Kemp for the governorship. But she turned the state of Georgia blue. Whatever political office she wants in the Biden administration.
She got a bunch of shout-outs last night from WNBA players via social media.
Whatever she wants, Skip, if she wants to be secretary, whatever you want, Miss Abrams.
Yep.
Joe Biden, President-elect Joe Biden, hand it to her.
Okay, so very late last night, after these runoff election results were in, and Kelly Loeffler lost by around 46,000 votes.
It's up higher than that now.
Okay, is it up higher?
Yeah.
Okay. Good for her.
Yeah.
LeBron tweeted suggesting that he would like to form an ownership group to buy her stake in the team.
She won't sell.
I doubt she will, and there's no law or rule that could force her to sell unless she just shamed into selling. But clearly, since 2011, she has been a very silent partner in this, sort of a 50, I think she's pretty close to 50-50.
Right.
Silent until she was appointed to a U.S. Senate position, and then she needed to win the runoff.
And some of the WNBA players said they didn't. This came out of left field because she would have them over to their house, to her house, and she would talk. She would but then she got a position of power.
Okay, and because of her political aspirations, she had to preach to her choir, to play to her crowd, which was the red side, the Republican side. And she condemned Black Lives Matter, but she was very careful to say that she condemned the politics of it, not the thought of, the premise of it, the principle of it. But whatever, she is completely the antithesis to everything her league, in which she owns a stake, stands for.
Skip, everything.
Everything. Okay. So the point is, this was a resounding victory. And you grew up in small town Georgia, obviously, but I sense huge pride on your part today that this was a breakthrough. And I believe that athletes in general, but especially the WNBA athletes, getting behind Raphael Warnock and wearing Vote Warnock shirts in their bubble, which was in Bradenton, Florida, it flipped the script on this, because the polling back in August had her winning by a pretty healthy margin.
Skip, I think the thing is that what helped Reverend Warnock is that his dad and Dr. King found the Ebenezer Baptist Church. Now, he's the senior pastor of that church. So he has name recognition. He's royalty in Atlanta. So now, okay, how do I get outside, get these, because DeKalb County and Cobb County, around that area, within, say, 50-mile radius, you know who Reverend Warnock is. The question is, can he go further? Can he go down to Chatham? Can he go down to Charlton County? Can he go down to, all those other
What's your county?
I'm Tattnall County, which is Savannah, which is Chatham County.
And how many miles from Atlanta?
About 225. So I'm about 3 hours away.
South,
exactly. Southeast. Yeah, I'm in the southeast.
Okay.
And then you go down to Columbus. So he had great name recognition. Now, John Ossoff was kind of an outsider. He's 33 years old. He was like a journalist, and then people didn't really know who he was. And Purdue was a longtime politician. But when you start, he had gotten, Senator Perdue had gotten so brazen, and he was talking about how they were, and John Ossoff brought up that he would outsource jobs to China. And you know what he said, Skip? Senator Perdue said, I did that. I did it in 2018, I did it in 2020, and I still won, and we're going to do it again.
Yep.
Really? I thought you were all about bringing jobs back to America. But you said you good with outsourcing them.
Yep.
So they had gotten so comfortable, because LBJ said something in '68 when he signed the Civil Rights and all those Rights Act. He said, what I did today is I just cost the Democratic Party the South for the next 50 years. Because up until then, the South had primarily voted Democrats.
Yep.
And when he signed that legislation, Georgia, Mississippi, Tennessee, all those, they really never voted Democrat again. So he understood what he was doing, but he was on the right side of history. LBJ didn't always think like this. He didn't always have these feelings that blacks should get certain things, but he had a change of heart, and rightfully so, and I'm glad he did. But Georgia, I am so proud to be a Georgian. I'm so proud of what they've done, to say, you know what? And from Killer Mike to T.I. to Luke Skip, the entertainers, they put their clout, because they was out there with them. They was doing the fish fry. They was knocking on doors. They was using their celebrity for a very worthy cause. And what we see now, from LeBron and them getting these NBA arenas to open up its polling stations, the Skip, blacks got a lot of voice. They got a lot of power. They got more. That's the mistake that you make, is that you don't realize how much power you have. But boy, they put that thing to use.
They did. And I loved LeBron's hashtag at the end of his Kelly Loeffler quote, or a tweet late last night. And the hashtag was Black Votes Matter.
They matter. Why do you think they do so much?
He helped mobilize black votes. And once they got mobilized, both in the presidential election and this runoff election, you saw the outcome. Yeah,
man, Hey, stand up. I'm so proud of Georgia. Look, there are some white in Georgia, Skip, that realize that what's going on isn't right.
I agree.
And they join hands with us. Now, there's some that like the status quo. Skip, that power is a drug. It's intoxicating. And when you're in the ruling party, you're like, what's wrong? I don't see anything wrong. But they know it's not. It's right. It's not right, Skip. And all we're asking for is equal protection.
And by the way, to your point, to sum all this up, I appreciated, as a white man, what LeBron said after the Laker game last night in talking about all of the above. And he made the point, I'm just paraphrasing his point because it was a long quote, but he made the point that white people care about this also now because they've seen what's wrong. Right.
Yeah. I mean, how can you watch the George Floyd and not see that there's something wrong in America?
Correct.
And Skip, that's just what we saw. Can you imagine before they got body cam, before they had cell phone video, and they just said, well, you know, it was just this. George Floyd didn't deserve to die. Well, he had this. When you met him, he was alive. And when you left, he was dead. So you caused an effect. You caused it. So whatever effect happened, you caused it. Man, George, I'm so proud of you. All right.